Hi, guys, and welcome to the Southern Harm Reduction Conference in Atlanta. I'm so excited to be here today, and I wish we could all be together. So, what I'm doing is I'm pretending we're all in a big banquet room, and you guys are all sitting at round tables, groups of 6 or 8. And so, go ahead and join with me and maybe grab something from the fridge, get some of those baby pickles and baby carrots and some good spinach dip and maybe bagels and sour cream, whatever part of the day you're in. I always like the little fancy crackers and those little chunks of cheese. So go ahead and pile up and get jacked up on caffeine because we probably all arrived last night and stayed up late, meeting new people and hugging old friends and being together. And now it's time for the compassion fatigue portion of the program. I hope that you enjoy this presentation. Um, we're going to learn about the emotional labor of changing lives. And these may be some new terms for you, but we'll learn as we go. What you will learn is to identify emotional labor as it relates to personal implications. Personal is you. And compassion fatigue. Construct a strategy for countering that empathy overload or empathy overdose through self-analysis. That sounds boring, but stay with me. We're going to minimize fatigue. Eventually, we're going to learn how to minimize fatigue through personal reflection, identifying our emotions, and then create strategies for developing new methods of self-care. It's going to get fun. You're also going to see a lot of pictures of people you know, maybe see some pictures of yourself. I got a lot of stuff off Facebook and also from my National Viral Hepatitis Roundtable meeting last year. I think there should be an I Save Lives discount everywhere. And if anybody deserves an I Save Lives discount, it's you people. And you're not in the news. And a lot of people, I think it should be for everyone who are in caring professions. But I think you guys should get that discount. Like we could just flash our phone and just show people, hey, I do save lives. We need to learn more about self-care because we totally understand client care. And I'm using the word client loosely. For you, it may be patient. It may be, someone that you're counseling. So whatever you call them, I call them best friends because I have a website called the Best Friends Guide. But I want you to learn to take your own vital signs throughout each day. So you're going to pick up little things as we go. And I hope you'll make some notes, have like pencil and paper because we are going to take a test in a minute. But your first test is going to be get your forefinger and your middle finger and place them on your wrist. And just feel your pulse. Close your eyes if you want to. Take a deep breath in. I need one. You have to focus. Do you feel that pulsing? I have two favorite lines in life, and one of them is everything works. And right now, everything's working. I don't know what else is going on in your life. I don't know what's happening with your clients. I don't know what's going on with your funding or what's gone on with all of your work in the year 2020, but I know this. Your heart's beating, you're breathing, everything's working right now. My second favorite line is no matter what. So no matter what goes on around us, we can take self-care and we can move forward into a radiant future. I'm a huge believer in that. I think we need to learn to rescue ourselves because we're amazing at rescuing others. And I know many of you. And so I'm going to be your slightly weepy, I'll just say, I'm going to be your slightly weepy, hopefully enthusiastic, and attempts at humorous presenter today. If I didn't say it already, I'm Karen Hoyt, and I'm excited to be with this presentation. We're going to talk about your radiant future, and we're going to help us to be on alert to whenever we're out of sync and getting toward the edge of compassion fatigue. Later on, you will take a compassion fatigue assessment. It's kind of a fun test. I think it's going to be really enlightening. And again, it's not a hard test. It's just like a yes or no. But we're going to find out where you are on the scale. Why do I have the right to say this? Well, I thought this combat fatigue picture was appropriate. I was an adult child of an alcoholic. I became an educator. I started out in nursing, couldn't do the math. Ended up in education, and I was teaching actually at a high school in rural Oklahoma. And at that time, that county was like the highest concentration of methamphetamine labs in the whole state. And it was a fairly small country. I was working with a very high, like over % Native American population. And we were literally the meth capital of Oklahoma. And I think we got that award 5 years running. And I'm teaching high school and college, and I'm trying to help these students. And I ended up starting a Narcotics Anonymous because I was familiar with Alateen and Al-Anon as a young adult. And so I was combating fatigue and trying to help, just like we all are. But I kept getting sleepier all the time, sleepier all the time. Went through a divorce, a real tragic one. And I moved back to my big city. I moved back to the big city of Tulsa, and my belly swelled up one night. And the next day, I was living with my dear childhood friend. The next day, I went into the hospital and I was diagnosed with the hepatitis C virus. I was yellow, I was jaundiced, I needed a blood transfusion. It was an emergency room diagnosis. And I went, literally, for me, it was like I went from competent to like nothing. I was just like nothing. I couldn't teach that fall. So I got a job doing STEM curriculum part-time, lost my insurance. So this in a nutshell. I went from being a competent person with a whole and healthy life, slightly dying of liver disease and didn't know it, to being really homeless. I didn't have a home. I moved in with a friend. I lost my income. I lost my COBRA insurance. I paid all my medical expenses out of cash. It was a rough year for me. And I vowed that I didn't want anyone else to ever feel like I was feeling. I didn't know if I was a nightmare or an angel as a patient or as a client. I know there wasn't a lot of help out there. And all of a sudden, I was trying to learn everything at once. I went from being a teacher to a student. And I was looking for caring hands to hold my hand and support me. I told you I'd be weepy. I needed good words. And so these people became my heroes. I got on the internet in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep, and I would look up hepatitis C. There wasn't a lot on in 2010. And by the way, my diagnosis was exactly 10 years ago and 2 days. So I just celebrated a 10-year anniversary of being in the hospital. I had PTSD. I was worn out. I was like many of the clients that you see. I was a nut. I was just a hot mess. And I didn't know if I was going to make it. But I got online. I found people. I found friendly faces. Alan actually ended up coming to Tulsa, and we met. And he did a workshop in the Tulsa area. And Lucinda came also, a year later. And I got acquainted with him because I was so filled with despair and futility. I couldn't find any good news, and I needed good words. I was surrounded with fear, and I needed to know. People would say, oh, you can make it and you can clear. Well, there wasn't any protease inhibitors weren't even released, much less DAAs. But I had the resilience, just like many of your clients. I had the resilience, and I had the courage deep in my heart. I was going to make it. But I needed an advocate to come along to bring encouragement to me. And so I made a little note here. The Hepatitis C Support Project and Hepatitis C Advocate were like the first big websites to reach out to people. They've done a lot of work with harm reduction, and they're two real heroes. But they were givers of hope, just like you. Now we're bringing it to you. You are a giver of hope. I don't know if any of you have ever seen a carrot plant, but it's a root vegetable, and the little green top comes up. If you look, if you can see, the carrot seeds are one of the tiniest seeds you can find. They're so little. Like, you just put them in the palm of your hand. There's probably enough carrot seeds in there to start a whole row of plants, maybe 2 rows, 14-foot rows, because they're so, so tiny. Each seed is dead, and it's fallen off of the top, or it's been gathered and harvested and put into a little bag. But each seed carries the potential for new life, just like us. We all carry the potential for new life. But the seed is vulnerable in the beginning. It's really kind of dead and lifeless. And a seed is vulnerable because if the wind catches it, then it won't bury. Or if a bird eats it, great, it's part of the ecosystem, but it's not going to produce. If it gets, washed away, or if it gets too deep and more mud comes on top of it, it'll never see the light of day. So many things can happen to a seed, but there's so much potential. So seeds are vulnerable. And really, with each seed, it's a life or a death. And we're like that. I look at good words as being the hope or the rain, the planter. And that's what you are. You're planters. You give hope. People rely on your words. Please don't feel heavy. But people, and I know this, rely on your words. And they need to be able to trust you and feel safe in order to move forward in their lives to reach their potential. When you found out about the job that you're now doing, or the foundation that you're working for, or the the government agency that you've got a job with, or the social work, or the clinical work, or the fundraiser, or the policy, public policy person. No one put on your resume or on the website, we're looking for hope dealers. They just, there was your job title, but really that's what you are. You're dealers in hope. That's what we all are, especially with harm reduction. And it's hard work. It's very hard work. And I picked this picture of the carrots because really we see these beautiful carrots, that are long and slim. Most carrots don't look like that. My sis grows carrots. She's kind of organic. And there's a lot of dirty work. We don't like the word dirty, but unfortunately, that's how many of us feel if we've got an infection. We do feel dirty, and I write against that all the time. That's one of the things. But it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week thing that we do in dealing hope. Many times when we're dealing hope out to others, we're triggering our own lives. We're triggering ourselves and the stuff that we're going through. We can get triggered back to a time in our lives, no matter what our background was. Whenever we're helping others, sometimes it will bring up those things that will build our character, but those things sometimes have the potential to hurt us. I don't know about you, but I feel like I've got the imposter syndrome. Yes, when I met Lucinda and Alan, and when I began to watch their work, it was like, if I get through this, I took the old protease inhibitors, like the shot at home and the 3 triple therapy with ribavirin. If I get through this, I want to be an advocate. I want to start a website. And then all of a sudden, I was starting a website and I was doing all this stuff, and I felt like an imposter sometimes. I still do. Now here I am presenting to you people. Many of you people have so much more education and experience than I do. But I can feel like I've got the imposter syndrome, but it doesn't matter. We continue to do the work that we're called to do every day. And that's where we can end up with understanding what our superpower is, because we all do have a superpower. That's my great niece, by the way, and that's her little bundle of carrots. She's a big girl now, but she sure loves planting seeds. And I've learned a lot about the carrot seed, and I know a song about that, but thankfully I won't sing it. But I think she exemplifies. She's a really motivated. Matter of fact, she's working at the farmer's market this morning. I just saw my sis's thing on Facebook. She's working. This little one's working the farmer's market today. She's highly motivated because once you see a plant grow, and once you wash it off and you see how wonderful it is, then you're motivated to watch that transforming power take place over and over and over. You've been inspired, and you have a desire to inspire others. You've had a role model, and then you desire to be a role model. You've had a hero fly in with their cape on and help you with words. They've watered, they've planted, they've helped to keep the birds away, whatever, they've protected you. But did you know that superheroes, Superman, your kryptonite becomes your superpower? I'll just share my superpower with you. And one of the ways you can find out what your superpower is, if you want to do this trick, that would be a whole other webinar, but it's life is and I am. And if you can complete those sentences, for me, growing up as the adult child of an alcoholic, I had struggles and everything. So my thing is, life is hard, but I can endure. And those were two of the things that I kind of live by. So I look to work hard and endure the hardship. It built character in me. I'm thankful for everything I went through. But that's my superpower. You find something hard, give it to me. I got it. You find something that is going to require you to work real hard and endure, I'm your girl. That's my superpower. You need it? I'm there, man. I've got broad shoulders and a good heart too. But that's also my kryptonite, because I'll take on jobs that don't belong to me. I'll take on your work when I should be doing something else, or I should be letting you do it. Are you beginning to follow? I can get into compassion fatigue because our superpower and our kryptonite can work together to create that perfect environment where we end up with compassion fatigue, which can lead to burnout. And then we're not helping anybody. This is your one wild and precious life. Dr. Paul Kalalanthy wrote a book last year. He was a brain surgeon who ended up with a brain tumor, which is it was a very wonderful book. He said, if you found out you were dying, and he did die by the end of the book, if you found out you were dying, would you be nicer, love more, or try something new? Well, you are. We all are. Those of you who know me know that I faced, after I cleared the virus, I ended up with primary liver cancer, and I was on the transplant list for a year, had a year of the chemotherapy, all the stuff, and I was dying. I was dying hard from liver cancer, from the hepatitis C. But I learned that when we are dying, we are nicer and we do love more and we try something new. Well, in the process of taking care of this one wild and precious life where you've got to live out your dreams and your full potential, most of what our day to day activities look like mumbled words of listening to someone's story, trying to understand and help them make sense of their story. For me, I do a lot of storytelling and I listen to people's stories. I wake up every morning and do new emails, and I work in forums, and I trying to help people tell their story or understand their story and how to move through it. Sometimes it's the mumbled words of a doctor, trying to understand, what did you say? How are you? But maybe someone is using sentence fragments to try to deal. You're trying to deal with someone and they're talking in sentence fragments. And you're asking yourself, what do they say? And that's emotional fatigue. You're working hard to be a listener. You're looking hard to hear someone's truth. And that takes you on an emotional high and low throughout your own life. Many times I've got sticky notes all around my computer because our sticky notes can be a big trail for me. They're a trail of what I need to do next or what I forgot to do. Maybe you use a planner. Maybe you keep notes on your phone. But we've got all these notes that we're trying to keep organized. That's our brain that's telling us what we need to do next. We probably click a lot of boxes. Many of you may work on computer systems, and you have to come up with numbers. You have to stay with compliance. How many people do we serve? What was our outcome here? How many lives did I save? Can you put a value on that? But if we're looking for funding, we do have to have some of this. I know many of you have to deal with the criteria. How many people were you able to serve? How many people were you able to feed? How many people were you able to find clothes for? I told you I'd be weepy. But that's what you do for a living. That's your one wild and precious life that you live is spent clicking boxes and answering emails and texts and phone calls. And many times you can end up on overload. It takes a lot of bravery, but with the bravery comes a balance. So here's where the pictures start. And if I could, I would have every single one of you. I mean, we would get a group picture if we were in Atlanta, but we're not. But developing resiliency and the ability to bounce back is great. It's a super tool because we do get knocked down a lot. But also, we can end up, I find myself, in codependence where someone else's need will keep me at the computer long after I should have been in bed or up early, and I hear something on my phone and it's like, oh, there's an email and I need to answer that. And so we talked earlier about the empathy overload, or the empathy overdose is what I call it. And that's just where we have our hearts worn out, and we're probably living on, like chemical overload, and we've just got, all sorts of chemicals running through our body as we're trying to address an adrenal problem because, fight or flight for me is a real thing. We do other care before we do self-care, and we don't always check in with our own emotions. How do you feel today? Well, how do you want to feel? Well, I want to feel fun. I want to feel happy. I want to feel loved. I want to feel pretty. I want to feel sexy. I want to feel confident. I want to feel full. I like to eat. There's a lot of things I want to feel. I want to feel exciting. I want to feel gorgeous. I want to feel happy. I want to feel like dancing. I want to feel a lot of things in my life. Many times I'm looking at other people's emotions more than I'm looking at my own, and we've got to do the balance. I also talk with my hands. I just thought this was funny to do the F words. This was the funniest message, and if you wrote it, please know that I asked the owner of the email if I could use something off of his, and he said yes. So I'm not identifying the writer of this, but I thought this was amazing, and I'll give you a second to read it. It'll make you laugh, and it'll make you cry. I'm cheering for this guy. And many of you may have been in a similar situation. Because the F words that go along with harm reduction is we need funding. That's a burden you carry every day. You're trying to fix something or help someone get a fix or fix something for someone. You're dealing with your own family. I mean, you had a dream of falling in love and having someone, caring partner, maybe children, grandchildren for me. But maybe you're helping someone else learn how to deal with their family and broken family systems. And that's where the fatigue comes in because we fight. And some people don't like the word. I have a cousin who just like, don't say fight. Well, no, it's fight. Sometimes we have to fight for what we want. And sadly, we can't just sit back and relax because we've got to make sure the world's not fair. The world is just not fair. We're finding that out real big time because we serve marginalized communities, and we see a great disparity in the way that people get their healthcare needs met. I get pretty mad when I talk about it, so I have to calm down with my emotional fatigue. Because we do want to have a bright future. A radiant future is my word. Radiant future for myself and for my readers. This is where the term emotional labor comes in. I'm trying to keep an eye on the clock. Emotional labor is a term that was actually used in a study, and it was regarding medical workers. And so when you got your job, think of it this way. When you got your job, like this is the money you're going to get. Some of you have to work year to year to get new grants in order to get more money, but here's the money you're going to get paid. So like if you're going to pay a plumber or if you're going to pay a guy to work on your car, you've got the parts and then the labor. And the labor is usually so expensive. We expect them to mark up the parts. But sometimes the labor is like, whoa, we just had a plumbing problem. And it's like, whoa, my plumber is doing really good. Man, he's making some good money. I'm happy for him. I like the guy. But we don't factor the emotional labor into harm reduction work. We don't factor in all the things that we've just talked about. The emotional labor that it costs you to do good, healthy self-care while you're taking care of others. So other care, planting seeds, watering seeds, then we're not always taking care of our own and noticing our own emotional labor and the toil that costs you in your life. And this isn't a bad thing. And if you may feel a little stressed right now when you think about it, because this is a big impact. That song, and I like the song, You're Never Fully Dressed Without a Smile. It's a great song. And we do put a smile on. Because if someone calls us and they've got a huge problem, yeah, we're serious. Hey, I've got this. I've got it for you. But if they don't sense, hey, look, you can make it in life. I can't tell someone, you can make it. You're going to be okay. We've got to put on that smile. We've got to be an encouragement to other people because that's why we do what we do. That's why we are confident. I'm not saying we're always cheerful, but I'm saying I'm very serious most of the time. Actually, I'm a serious nerd, but I love people. And so my smile is genuine, but there are times when I plaster on a smile when I don't feel it, just to get the job done. We've got to manage our feelings, be able to express what it is that we're going through. We've got to find an outlet for our true emotions, finding the truth of our emotions, and set boundaries so we can say, now I'm feeling this. And even if you can just notice in your own head, I'm feeling really stressed right now. I'm just feeling super overwhelmed by this. But how can I serve you? And that's what harm reduction does, as we learn to watch for our compassion fatigue by observing the emotional labor. We have to have competency. We won't be able to serve anybody if we don't at least appear to be competent. There are times when we say, I'm not sure what to do next, but I'm going to find out, and I'll stay with you till we can figure something out. I don't necessarily have all the answers for you, but I'll hold your hand. Just like people have held my hand, just like people have held your hand. We're not fake with it, unless anybody misunderstand that. We are the hope whisperers, though. I keep bringing that word hope. I love hope. And so this was it looks like Robin's kind of photobombing, but actually Polly and I had taken a picture. And if you don't know Robin Lord-Smith, you need to get on NVHR and on Facebook and join her. She's a leader. She'll put you to work, or she'll show you how work's done. She's got a huge heart. She's worked with the in harm reduction. She worked before there was a word harm reduction. She was doing advocacy work, and I'm very proud to know her. Many other people I met, but Robin and I continue to work together through Help for HEP and through other things. You need help? You let Robin know. She's got connections. She knows people, and she knows people who knows people. And Polly, I've got a picture of him later. I'll talk about him. He's another special guy. Hope Whispers. And so now for this one, I made a pledge. So put your hand over your heart. Take a deep breath in, pull your shoulders back, and we're going to say a pledge. And you don't have to do it like that, but just put your hand right now on your heart. You can put both. And I'm just going to say it in first person, and you can just agree with me and say it for your own heart. My life has a purpose. There is a meaning in everything that I do to help other people. I reach my potential and I help others reach their potential for growth. I create opportunities for myself and for others to live their best, most radiant lives. I just like those words, so if you want to, you can screenshot that and make a little pledge of your own. You might even have better words. But reality bites. The fact is, we're under-resourced. Clients are apathetic and they don't always believe that they can get the help that they need, and sometimes they want to argue with us. Many times they've been victimized multiple times, and those people, they're deaf. They're deaf to the voice of love. Not all, but some people are deaf to the voice of love. And if you stand there with your love and your compassion, they'll try you, and they may even become aggressive and try to push back, like nobody's ever cared for me like this. But we keep showing up, and we don't get a break. There's no break room for this. Like in the school, we always had a teacher's break room where we could go in and gripe and eat. We don't have a break room most of the time. You might have one in your facility, but I'm talking about creating a mental break room within yourself where you stop and recognize, I'm tired right now. This one's going to hurt. This one's going to cost me. Now, get your pencil and paper out, and I want you to write numbers 1 through 20 on a page. And they don't have to be in a line. They can be whatever. But just real quickly, write the numbers 1 through 20, and you don't have to write any words. All you're going to do is write the numbers, and then you're going to circle the number as I read them. There's 20 questions. I think you'll like it. I'm checking my time. I'm doing okay. I'm so glad we're all here together. I hope you're enjoying this. We're almost to the end, and I want to get everything in. So if you've written 1 through 20, you're probably looking at words now like wellness, healthy limits, resilience, exercise, empowerment. That's a good word. Skills, mindfulness, support, relaxation, all those things that translate into good self-care to help us combat compassion fatigue. So let's go with the questions. Number 1, I'd like for you to circle the answer if it applies to you. That's the only instruction. Circle the number if that one applies to you. Number 1, I'm considered a capable and rational member of my team. If so, circle number 1. Number 2, I frequently feel sadness for my clients and their family. If so, circle number 2. An emotional response at work is not professional. If that's how you feel and that applies to you in your situation, circle number 3. My work offers a timeout after an emotional encounter with a client. If that applies, circle number 4. I often work overtime to get everything done. If that applies, circle number 5. I have confidence in my ability to discuss compassion fatigue with my boss, my family, and or my coworkers. If you have confidence in your ability to discuss that, circle number 6. Number 7, the stress of my job affects other areas of my life. If that applies, circle 7. I don't have time to take care of my spiritual, emotional, and physical health. If that applies, circle number 8. I wish we were in the same room. I could tell, like when you were 3, you could like look up at me, but you can't. Number 9, I do not have a coworker, boss, or peer who understands me on the job. If that applies, sorry, circle number. Nobody sees this, so like. This would be tough if you were sitting next to your coworker and you wanted to circle that, but you couldn't. You can circle it because you're by yourself in your house. And what we're doing is we're just acknowledging our truth. This isn't a judgment about any organization or any person. It's not even a judgment against yourself. We're just finding the truth. If I'm triggered by an event at work, it's okay for me to excuse myself for a short break. If it applies, circle it. Number 11. I sometimes think about totally changing careers. Those fonts got really big suddenly. I sometimes think about totally changing careers. If that's true, just circle it, just even a little, just acknowledge it. I worry that setting boundaries at work may let others down or cause disciplinary action. Circle number 12, if you're worried about setting boundaries. So keep from letting others down or causing disciplinary action. Number 13, I dread seeing some clients. Nobody's looking. Maybe you don't. Tell your truth. I used to love my work. And this could be a thing of degrees. Maybe you don't, just hate your job, but you may have a bit of burnout coming on, and we want to recognize it. Circle number 15. If you believe, I rarely get a full night's sleep without a drink or medication. If that's true, circle 15, last page. Anyone's qualified to do what I do. Really? If that's true, circle number 16. There's not enough funding to help all my clients. Let's just get that lump in my throat. If that's true, circle 17. People who take breaks don't take their work seriously. When I was young, I was kind of that way. I wouldn't take breaks, but I learned. Number 19, learning new, or you might work with someone. I worked with someone who believed that people who take breaks don't take their work seriously, and I kept trying to work harder. Oh. Anyway, number 19, learning new ways to take care of myself is kind of frivolous. If that's true for you, circle 19. Finally, compassion fatigue and emotional labor is a useless presentation. Now, if we're in a room together and I can see on your face that you're like, gosh, why didn't I go to that other workshop? I would totally know. But if that's true for you and you think this is just not my cup of tea, I don't care about that kind of stuff, I've already know it, then you can circle that one and it'll count. So, this is a broad spectrum, and we can't really say, oh, you are or you aren't, but it's more a way of looking at layers or the spectrum of it. If you scored above 10, you can read that. You're probably suffering from compassion fatigue. You're a caring person in a caring profession, and you can take steps to analyze your personal beliefs and make time for self-care and begin to recover. It's important to find ways to communicate with your supervisors about creating a culture that identifies potential for burnout from compassion fatigue. And you may have to begin to create a different culture talking about compassion fatigue and emotional labor. If you score below 10, you're showing symptoms of compassion fatigue. You're a caring person working in a caring profession, but you're also able to see where personal steps can be taken. So maybe you've been past compassion fatigue and burnout. So you've seen personal steps can be taken, and you understand the importance of helping to create the culture. You may have already begun that process where healthy boundaries are discussed in a caring and compassionate way. You probably already see the pitfalls in your organization, and you're in a position to facilitate change. Here's some compassion fatigue rescue tips. This is my friend Chris, and he does the West Coast down in the Phoenix Mesa area. Phone a friend. Get on. The other day I had someone in Arizona, and I get on, my support group, my NVHR support group. I hope you have a support group. I hope you have someone that you can reach out to. Phone a friend. Get on Facebook. Find somebody that you can talk to, and reach out to someone and just say, hey, I need help. I've got a client that needs this. I need this. Or here's what's going on in my personal life. What should I do? And that way we have someone that can reach out a hand to us. And then we'll be there to reach out a hand to them. It's one of the ways that we rescue ourselves from compassion fatigue. I wanted to bring up Tai Chi because that's my new thing. And if you follow me on Facebook, you can come into my personal private group. And I'm doing Tai Chi to kind of heal from the liver transplant thing. But it's also very beneficial just to calm down and to breathe. And I'd love to do it with you if you'd like to. I wanted to offer that. But nature, I'm lucky enough to live out in the woods in Oklahoma, so I'm surrounded by trees and birds. But many of you live in the inner city and I know you're working in urban areas, and I just have so much admiration and respect for the work that you do 24/7. And I go on YouTube, and you can find some really good YouTubes on nature. Actually, I watch people paddle canoes on the Boundary Waters, or you might watch people who build cabins in Alaska. I don't necessarily want to hear them talk, but I'll just put it on and watch them and play music through my speakers. It's a nice thing, a way to get into nature. I brought up the word bank statement because I want you to think, you guys don't let your bank statement get with the overdrawn because they charge you extra fees. And so you make sure before you spend this money or before you give this out or before you head for the ATM, you know how much is in there, even if it's not much. I want you to think about your emotional life as it relates to being overdrawn or on overload. And if you've got empathy overload, you're probably getting close to compassion fatigue, leading to burnout. So be aware of your own emotional bank statement and keep it full. And if you need help, reach out. I just like these words again. Every day, we were created. We were created for a purpose. We were created to feel good. I mean, I have taste buds that tell me that this tea is really awesome. And I have taste buds that tell me that cookies, for me, and also those little fancy crackers and cheese, I have taste buds that tell me that feels good to me. We have sensory fingertips in our mouth and our whole body, even our hair, the wind in our hair. We're designed to feel good. That's my point. We're designed to have silly moments, even though we're competent. We're designed to cuddle. And if we can't cuddle with a person, social distancing is really hard on huggers, but cuddle with a pet or someone that you know that has not been exposed to anything. You can cuddle with them. We all need to be held. We all need to laugh. We were designed, ha ha ha, we were designed with this little voice box that would, babies do it naturally because laughter is, we as adults, we kind of forget how to laugh. I go to this YouTube when I had cancer. When I was doing the interferon injections in my belly, I would turn on, that's when I started listening to laughter yoga. And it's the funniest thing in the world, but you just fake laugh. I'm really good at it. And once you start it, you'll actually start to laugh. Here's another sentence I said. I told you I like no matter what and everything's working. But I also like I forgive and release. Because I've had situations in my life where there's pain. My family's not perfect. And we've been through a lot together. Not everybody's on my side. Sometimes life is hard. But I forgive myself. Sometimes I'm really hard on myself. So that's a little word for me. I forgive and release. And I have to say forgive and release because forgiveness doesn't happen easy. And so then I have to release it so I can go on and think happier thoughts. Make a list of all your positive attributes. Just today, after this, just sit down and write down all the positive attributes, all the wonderful things about you. This is almost over and I'm not going to have time for Q&A. Okay, list all your positive attributes. Like somebody asked somebody one time, I said, what do you like about me? It was a boy when I was in high school. And he said, you have the kindest eyes. I was so upset. I wanted him to say he was beautiful or sexy or something. Kind eyes. Well, no, I write that at the top of my list. If I'm listing positive attributes, kind eyes counts. I want you to daydream. I want you to get along and close your eyes and pretend all the people that have ever loved you and cared about you are surrounding you. And I want you to imagine them just coming up to you and just smiling at you. And then when you're in that tense moment, when you can recognize compassion fatigue's coming on at the back of your head somewhere, you can just close your eyes and take a deep breath in, and you can feel the love and the warmth. I want you to begin to practice feeling the love and the warmth from the people that have cared for you the most. Carry a daydream in your head all the time. We're going to daydream. Our brain just does that. We'll try to predict the future, or we'll reminisce in the past. Create a daydream that's a positive one, where everybody's smiling and loving you and telling you how wonderful you are. That would be a whole step too. I don't have time to talk about Doc Conley, but I follow her on Instagram. She talks about how to get all these reward chemicals. She's just a great gal, and she does work with trauma. And if you are on Instagram, you should follow her because every day she talks about really cool stuff. So like if you are in pain, you can do essential oils and dark chocolate. But if you need a mood stabilizer or oxytocin or a reward chemical, here's all the ways you can do it. This is Polly out on the West Coast. He's worked with everything. I can't remember them all right now, because I have brain fog, but he's a rock star. And so while he's worked his whole life for hepatitis C and HIV and foundations, raising money and making a change, just like you have, He has fun. He's a blast to hang out with. He is a freaking rock star. So like, it's shake your booty a little bit. So I want you guys, just like get some move on. I stand at my computer a lot, and I shake my booty. I crank up the computer, and then I raise my hands up. So I want everybody right now, just put your hands up over your head. If we were in a conference room, I would have you up shaking your booty right now, a little bit. Some of you would sit there and just look at me and you'd be saying, I don't need this conference. I didn't need this workshop. But plan for positive stuff in your life by shaking your booty. And now I want to teach you to take a breath and just take a deep breath in. Exhale all the way up. Inhale deep. Hold it. And squeeze off your throat and exhale slow. And daydream that someone's looking at you with love. Our strategies, networking, move that body. Come see me in my little yoga class. And I'm not making money off this. There's nothing about this. It's just fun. I want you to be awake and aware of what's going on inside your brain. Do some spiritual development. I've got a quantum energy poster, and I've got a rosary hanging on it. Create a spiritual practice that works for you. Meditate, pray, whatever it means to you, and find balance. Keep a strong back. Keep your heart soft. Keep your front soft and have a wild heart. I've got a whole thing I could do on this, and this is actually a separate body talk. What's your body saying to you? Learning to listen, saying the word change. It's a whole breathing exercise I don't have time for. But you have choices. You're an empathetic person in a helping and a caring, compassionate job, and you have choices to overcome compassion fatigue. Here's Chris's feet now. He said he went roller skating. I love this picture. I said, I'm stealing it. Rules for life. Eat when you're hungry. Drink when you're thirsty. Sleep when you're tired. Have a little bit of fun. And give and receive love every day. I stole this one off a friend from Indiana. Praise yourself. He was praising someone because they'd made all these cotton Narcon kits. Praise yourself. All is well. Everything's working, no matter what. People showed up for him and helped him in the middle of the crisis. Great person. Look at the compassionate actions and words you show others. Be just as generous with yourself, and your cup will be full to overflowing and all will feel connected. Here's my references. And that's me. So I hope we can connect if you want to, anywhere on social media. I am a little social media buff, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I've got like 2 minutes left. No, I don't. My time's up. I love you.